There are more single dads in Southern Nevada than anywhere else in the country. George Knapp investigates an organization that's helping them fight for their rights, but at the same time, helping to foster anger towards women.
The busy financial district.
Unhappy marriages where 12,000 couples each month get divorced. These days, more and more divorced fathers are fighting for custody rights and turning to a certain private organization for assistance. But is this organization turning men into women haters? George Knapp of the I-Team here with that story, George.
Dave and Paula, our area has the highest percentage of single dads in the country. Over the past 10 years, the courts have shown a greater willingness to award joint and even sole custody of kids to their fathers. And one reason for that is a group called Equal Rights for Divorced Fathers. This private organization teaches men to stand up for their rights and to take care of their kids. All good advice. But along the way, the group takes some vicious shots at ex-wives, at women in general, and at the court system itself.
I tell guys, yes, stand up for your rights. Get in there and assert yourself.
Ernest Del Casal has been helping Nevada men stand up for their rights for 22 years. Del Casal founded Equal Rights for Divorced Fathers back in the early 80s after getting the short end of the legal stick himself. Today, he works out of this modest office where he sees more than 30 men a day, most of whom don't know the system and can't afford an attorney. Del Casal estimates he's helped 80,000 men to get through their divorces and custody battles.
It's usually somebody that's desperate, that they can't, there's no other way for them to go.
Ostensibly, Del Casal's message is not anti-mom, it's pro-dad. But one of the first thing one sees on entering his office is this T-shirt on the wall.
That shirt was donated to somebody that, I let guys hang stuff all over the walls. You can look around, I'll take you for a tour in a few minutes. But this is a clubhouse. They can type anything they want.
But it's not only a wall decoration. The shirts are sold to raise money for the group. Since men come here for Del Casal's advice, might they not assume this is some of it?
I'm not wearing it.
You have any of that? You sell these things?
That's not mine.
But you there to sell.
It's a fundraiser. That's how we paid for our Father's Day barbecue. I don't see anybody wearing them. It's a gag gift.
I find that very distressing because of the obvious demeaning nature that kind of a T-shirt has.
Attorney Gail Nathan isn't bent out of shape just because of the T-shirts. Like other female attorneys in town, she's been on the receiving end of Del Casal's pointed barbs. Nathan says she represents more men than women in her practice, but that she's perceived by Del Casal as an anti-father feminazi.
There's been some very mean and derogatory things said about me personally and professionally.
Del Casal's weekly lectures, part stand-up comedy, part fire and brimstone, tear into all sorts of people, including female judges labeled by name as fat lesbians, female attorneys who allegedly coax their clients into faking injuries so their husbands are arrested, and a litany of jokes unlikely to make divorce any easier. What do you tell a wife who has 2 black eyes, Del Casal asks. Nothing. You told her twice already. What do 15 battered women have in common? Answer, none of them understands the meaning of shut the blank up. What does a woman do when she gets out of the battered women's shelter? The dishes, if she knows what's good for her.
It's not meant with any ill intent. I mean, it's to liven the meeting, make everyone relax. I don't have any problems with women. I don't go out and I don't practice any kind of hatred of women or anything in public. What I do here is a private organization. What we talk about, what we joke about, that's our business.
But ERDF gets referrals from public agencies, including family court judges, the DA's office, Metro Police, and state welfare. Those agencies send men here so they can learn from Del Casal.
It almost seems as though they have a cavalier attitude toward domestic violence toward women.
The men who see Del Casal are often angry already, or at least emotionally fragile. Do wisecracks about wife beating make the process easier?
To encourage hatred is the absolute wrong thing to do. And that's a reflection of Ernie's personality.
Del Casal is not exactly apologetic.
No, you're investigating report. You want to beat me up, that's okay. You know why? Because all it's going to do is bring more people.
It's not our intention to beat up Del Casal or his group. In fact, since the ad for this report has been airing on Channel 8, we've had a steady stream of calls from men who say Del Casal saved them, that without him, they don't know where they would be today. He may be right. No matter what our reports show, they are likely to mean that more men will come to him for help.
Yeah, but the public agencies know what he's saying about women?
Well, if they don't, they're about to find out, I guess. Ironically, some of his roughest remarks are made about individual judges, about the DA and the courts in general, the same system that send people to see him. And tomorrow at 5 o'clock, we'll hear some of those colorful remarks, and we'll be back tomorrow night at 11 with some advice that he gives to husbands about how to hide income, allegedly how to hide income during a divorce.
You're saying he's kind of biting the hand that feeds him in a sense, you know.
Yeah, but he has strong support out there. Strong support.
All right.
Story including some hidden camera video.
Dave and Paula, the organization is called Equal Rights for Divorced Fathers, judging by the orchestrated campaign of phone calls we've been receiving since last night. ERDF and its founder, Ernest Del Casal, seem to have touched a lot of lives. But some are asking whether the end justifies the means. Does helping dads have to come at the expense of trashing moms?
I've always been a person that likes to tell the truth the way I see it.
That's putting it mildly. Ernest Del Casal doesn't pull punches. His group was created ostensibly to even the playing field for fathers facing the uncertainties of divorce and custody battles. Del Casal says the ERDF is pro-dads, not anti-moms. But the t-shirts he displays and sells send a different message, as do the jokes he cracks at his weekly meetings, as seen in this undercover video provided to us by a third party.
What does a battered woman do when she gets out of the shelter? Dishes, if she knows what's good for her. What are 15 battered women all have in common? None of them understand shit.
Del Casal is especially tough on some female attorneys.
First of all, they're women's rights activist type people, and they don't like what I represent here. It bothers them.
It's almost like a terrorist organization against women.
Family law attorney Gail Nathan has taken some lumps from Del Casal. Not a big deal, she says, except she can't believe that public agencies, meaning the family courts, the DA, even the state, refer men to Del Casal for help. Does it make sense to send men to ERDF when they're emotional and uncertain and let them joke about beating up their exes?
Almost encouraging a meanness in the process is just not helpful to the recovery process.
The family courts have an informal relationship with Del Casal. The court's self-help center sends over men who have no money, lawyer, or understanding of what they're up against. Judge Bob Luke, for one, thinks Del Casal does a decent job of helping husbands with their legal paperwork, which means family cases move through the system better. Ironically, Luke is one of Del Casal's favorite targets. In his newsletter, Del Casal calls Luke an insecure man who runs his mouth. In his meetings, he says more about the judge.
I don't know if he started smoking crack or what happened to him, but he went wackadoo.
We just look at Ernie as being Ernie. Ernie has no credibility over here anymore because he's unbalanced in the way he presents his arguments. It's either he loves somebody or he hates them. And he's very mean-spirited, unfair, and engages in these venomous, vitriolic attacks.
ERDF is even tougher on other judges. It describes Judge Gerald Hardcastle as hostile, angry, impatient, and ill-tempered.
This is the most miserable motherfucker He hates father's rights.
Hardcastle declined to comment for this story. Tougher still is Del Casal's opinion of one female judge.
She's a mean-spirited lesbian that doesn't like men.
Does he remember using the term lesbian to describe a judge?
One of them I said might have comfortable shoes, no makeup, and a lot of body hair. I think I used that terminology.
Jabs taken at female judges, female lawyers, ex-wives, and women in general do not mean that Del Casal is anti-woman, he says. It's all just meant to build trust with divorced dads.
What if I make jokes about old people? What about I make ethnic jokes in here every day because I have such a variety of ethnic groups that come in here? But guess what? I do it I make sure that one of them is here. But I don't think it has anything to do with what I do here, which is to educate men to their rights and their responsibilities.
But as part of that education, in his meetings, Del Casal tells his flock how he would react if his own wife ever tried to call the authorities on him. Del Casal says he has never engaged in domestic violence, nor does he advocate it. Something else he says he doesn't advocate is for husbands to hide their finances during a divorce. But the information he distributes says exactly that. Tonight at 11, that part of the story. By the way, the video we obtained was shot by DeBecker Investigations on behalf of a client that they declined to name.
Right. Undercover video.
You bet, Paula. Depending on who you talk to, the family courts either completely favor women or completely favor men when it comes to divorce and custody issues. Divorce, at best, is a dicey business. Judges and lawyers advise people to get through it and get on with their lives without too much bitterness. That's not what Ernest Del Casal of Equal Rights for Divorced Fathers tells people, as we see in some undercover video we obtained.
because of this white trash trailer park cocaine snorting guzzling bitch, I have to now go through this? No.
Ernest Del Casal doesn't speak very highly of women during his weekly meetings of divorced dads. Don't even get him started talking about women's rights groups.
Have you guys ever been to a now meeting? It's up, man. They got these lesbians that come up there with the razors and their Levi's.
Lesbians are often mentioned at Del Casal's meetings. Ex-wives are compared to toilets. Lawyers and judges who side with women are considered the enemy. In Del Casal's view, the DA's office exists only to collect money from husbands, and everything is stacked against men.
If you're a man, you will be bad. If you're not bad, you're going to be bad. People with penises are bad, so therefore, she stays in the house.
His newsletter attacks judges perceived as friendly to women. He campaigns for any judge who is friendly to men. Lawyers who represent women are cast into the hall of shame. The office sells t-shirts that offer this advice to divorced dads. Del Casal says it's all part of his effort to even the playing field.
Your dad has to go to court 2-3 times just to become an equal. Why don't we do it just totally different? Why don't my idea is, let's start, there's two parents, mom and a dad. Let's start them off equal.
One thing Del Casal does to make things equal is distribute information packets, including the do's and don'ts of preparing for divorce. One list advises men to take some steps before going to court, such as closing all joint accounts and credit cards, make sure the wife can't obtain business and financial records, rent a P.O. box to get the mail the wife shouldn't see, and tone down the husband's lifestyle and spending before seeing the judge. Family law attorney Gail Nathan, a target of Del Casal's, says this is bad legal advice from someone who is not a lawyer.
There's a recommendation to tone down your lifestyle so that you'll have a lower living standard when the judge actually sees what your financial numbers are. Well, that's deceiving the court. I mean, I don't advocate that anybody deceive the court.
If you encourage somebody to lie about your assets and hide them, that's illegal.
Family Court Judge Bob Luke is one of many local jurists who has informally directed men to seek help from Del Casal in the past. These days, Del Casal rails against Luke in his newsletter and openly campaigns for his defeat. Luke says Del Casal's legal advice is playing with fire.
And if you're intentionally hiding something, you're perpetrating a fraud on the court. And it's hard enough to figure out whether he said, she said in these cases, who's telling you the truth about anything. But when it's intentional, it's even doubly more difficult.
Del Casal disavows the advice that he hands out.
Oh, well, that's just general stuff that comes out of a manual that we get from the National Congress of Men that we pass out in our weekly meeting.
Why have you passed it out? Are you endorsing that?
I'm not endorsing it. They want literature on all the different fathers groups and stuff. I'll give you a copy of it. You can look at it.
You sell these shirts, but you don't endorse them. You hand that stuff out and you don't endorse it?
Well, I'll show you the manual.
Do divorced dads follow his advice? Or when he hands out tips about hiding things from the wife. Men certainly follow his other recommendations. Whatever happens at Del Casal's meetings, he is convinced that somewhere women are saying worse.
Attend a women's meeting and see how prim and proper they are, please.
Sorry about those technical difficulties. We plan to take Ernest Del Casal up on this suggestion by taking a look at women's organizations locally to see what advice they're handing out. One other point on this story, Del Casal's club is a private organization, one that invites in the public as long as that public is male. Del Casal himself is a public figure since he is running for an elected office this year. He's seeking a seat on the school board.
You said that undercover video was from a private eye firm. How did we get it?
The company is DeBecker Investigations. They were hired by a client they won't identify, but they said that after they attended a couple of these meetings and videotaped a few of them, they thought it might be newsworthy, and they brought us hours of the tape. Needless to say, we were intrigued as well. And the interesting thing here is that there is nothing in the undercover tapes that Del Casal disavows. I mean, he pretty much admitted all of it to us while on camera. He's obviously a smart guy and has helped a lot of people. You have to ask, why does it have to be done this way?
What a story. Thank you, George.
Sure.